Okay, guys, this is a quick review of just some of the equations that we need to do, so you need to be ready for it. So the first couple are pretty simple, but just remember what we talked about, that we're going to look at what's happening to x, and then when we can answer that question, we're going to undo that. And when we get to where we have more than one thing happening to x, then what we have to do is look at the order of operations, and since we're undoing something, we're going to treat it like a present. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so first, when we look at this, the first thing I'm asking is, well, this is x minus 7. So what's happening to x? It's being subtracted from. How do we undo subtraction? We do undo subtraction with addition. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 7 to both sides. And then I've taught you to draw that line down there from the hands-on equation so we can keep track of what we're doing. And then, of course, if we looked at this, if we add 7 and subtract 7, it's the same as a 0. So we're just left with x on this side. And 7 plus 3, of course, is 10. Now at this point, if you know what you're doing, it's good. But you want to check, I mean, this is the first year you guys have had to do this. So it's valuable to go back and check, which means you're going to rewrite the original equation. And then you're just going to plug the value back in. So we're going to start with this being the same, but we said x equaled 10, so we're going to say 10 minus 7, which is 3. And this side was already 3. Okay, so this might seem fairly simple, and I hope it is. But that's the same principle. We're going to do the same thing on every one just to check and make sure we have the right answer. So when we look at this one, we have 15 equals 3t, and that means 3 times t. We have to remember that's a multiplication symbol in there. Okay? And so we ask, well, what's happening to the variable? Well, the variable is being multiplied by 3. How do we undo multiplying by 3? Well, we would divide by 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3, which means 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we have 1t equals, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So that means t equals 5. Again, I'm going to check it. So I started out with 15 equals 3t. Okay, now the 15, it stays the same. What we're changing is t, because we said t equals 5. So we're going to put a 5 in there, times the 3. And 3 times 5 is 15. And this side was 15, so yep, we have the right solution. Our solution is t equals 5. Okay, so again, we're just practicing some simple moves. So this one's a little harder. When we look at this, we say, what's happening to z? Z is being divided. So how do we undo division? So if we look, we're going to say, well, we undo division with multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides times 6. Because 6 divided by 6 is 1, so we get z on this side. And 7 times 12 is 72. So when I check, I rewrite the equation out, and instead of z, what I'm going to put in place of the z is 72 divided by 6. This side was already 12. 72 divided by 6 is 12. Well, so these two sides are balanced, so we have the right answer, z equals 72. That's our solution, right? Okay, so now that we've practiced those, okay, what we're going to do with these now is we have to look at those, and one of the things I taught you was first make everything addition because it makes things stand out a little bit better. But the other thing we talked about in class was we have to undo it in the reverse order that we would do it if it was order of operations. So if I had 7 times 4 minus 10, what would I do first according to order of operations, which we've looked at and said that's PEMDAS, right? Parentheses, exponents. Multiplication, division, I've taught you that those two are inverse operations, and so when we do those, we're going to go left to right. And addition and subtraction, same thing. They're inverse operations. It's going to go left to right. So when we look, I have two operations happening here. First, I'm going to rewrite this. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to change this to plus negative 10 so that if I needed to, I can use commutative property. And if you don't do this and you still get the right answer, well, you're okay. But it's going to help those of you that are struggling. And when I look at this, then what I have is this is 7x is multiplication, and then this is addition. If I look at my order of operations, I'm going to do multiplication first, and then I'm going to do addition. We talked about this being like unwrapping a present that your parents gave you. That when your parents gave you that, they took it, had it in a box, and they wrapped it. And then, you know, if they were having fun with you, they put it in another box, and they wrap that. And then they tape it up really well. Well, for you to get to what they did, you have to take off the last thing they did, you have to undo first. You have to take off that last piece of paper they put on is the first thing you have to take off. And that's what we're doing here. So in order of operations, we would do the addition last. So we're going to undo it first. So how do we undo adding negative 10? Well, we could add, remember we're trying to get a 0 from this. From right here, we want that to be a 0. So we're going to add positive 10 to both sides. Okay, and then again, we're going to draw a line there, and now what we're going to say is, well, that means I'm going to have 7x on this side, but now I'm going to have 91 on the right side, because 81 plus 10 is 91, okay? 7x plus 0 is 7x. Okay, so now I have multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? I'm going to divide by 7. I get x equals 13. And then if I want to check it, I just rewrite that equation. And now I'm going to plug that in and say, well, I have 7, and I said x was 13. So 7 times 13 minus 10. And this side, the right side's already just 81. So 7 times 13 is 91 minus 10, which is 81. And this side's 81, so yep, that checks. Now remember, this right here that we just did, that's just the check. That tells us if we got the right answer. This is our solution. Now this problem here is really where it comes in valuable to make everything into addition. So if I looked at this, I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to make this plus negative 7y. So I'm going to have 8 plus negative 7y equals negative 41. Okay. Now I'm going to, for simplicity, if I'm looking at this, I have addition here, but there's multiplication that still exists right here. So if I rewrote this, for a lot of you it's going to be easier if I rewrote this as negative 7y plus 8 equals negative 41. Because now it becomes a little bit easier to see that here's multiplication with the negative 7 times y, and then we have our addition. So the first thing we're going to undo is that addition. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So we're going to wind up with negative 7y equals, and then we have to just remember, okay, this is where you have to be careful, is if I'm subtracting 8, I go down, right? I'm going to go down 8. And I started at negative 41. So where would I land? Because some of you will tell me that we're going to land at negative 33. But negative 33 is up here. 0 is way up here. Okay? So I'm going to be at negative 49. So this equals negative 49. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7. Because that's going to give me y, 1y. And this, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 49 divided by 7 is 7. Okay, so when I go to check this, now I'm going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so I'm going to write it as, I have 8 minus 7 times, and we said y equaled 7. 7 times 7. Okay, and then, so that means I'm going to have 8 minus 7 times 7 is 49. And again, if I'm subtracting 49, I'm going down. Okay, so if I'm subtracting 49, I am going down. And if I start at positive 8, then I have 8 just to get to 0. So I'm going to be at negative 41. And the other side was already negative 41, so yeah, that checks. Y, my solution is y equals 7. Again, what we did was first thing we did was we came in and we wrote it as addition. Second thing I did was use commutative property to rearrange things. And then I subtracted 8 from both sides and then divided by negative 7. So this one and the next one are the ones that cause the biggest problems for you guys. And it seems like the thing that's causing the problems is that division sign. So when I look at this right here is the biggest issue. Okay, so what I'm still looking at though is what is my order of operations and what's happening. So when I look, I can see that, okay, this is division and this is subtraction, or which I'm going to turn into addition in a minute. So I'm going to do addition last, so it's the first one I'm going to undo. So looking at this, I have to undo the subtracting 7 first. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Okay. Which means now on the left-hand side, all I have is t over 4. And on the right-hand side, I now have 10. And those are balanced. So now what I need to do is undo the division. I undo division with multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides times 4, which gives me t on this side, and 10 times 4 is 40. When I check this, again, all I'm doing is plugging in a value over the 4. We said it was 40, so I'm going to put 40 over 4 minus 7. Of course, this side's already just 3. 40 divided by 4, because I do division before I do subtraction. 40 divided by 4 is 10, minus 7, which is 3. Well, that's the same thing as we had on the other side, so yep, it checks t equals 40. Okay, so again, remember what we've done. We've looked at it. We've looked at order of operations. We've gone the reverse. We've undone things. When we undo division, we undo it with multiplication. So this one is the tricky one. Okay, because what people don't remember, when we taught this at the beginning of the year, and I made sure I taught this because this is always a problem, but I made sure I taught this with you. And that is that you have to remember that it's as if this on top is in parentheses. So if that was on parentheses, and if we were looking at order of operations, which is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, and division, which go left to right, and addition and subtraction, which also go left to right, because they're inverses of each other. So we could see we have to do the parentheses first, and then we can do division. So the thing we're going to undo last. If we're following order of operations, we go that way. If we're trying to undo it, we're going to undo that first. So we undo the division. We said we undo division by multiplying by multiplication. So to undo that, we're going to multiply both sides by 6, which that gives us 6 divided by 6 is 1. So on the left-hand side, we just have x minus 7. And on the right-hand side, we have negative times a positive is a negative, and 4 times 6 is 24. We have negative 24. Now to solve x minus 7, it's being subtracted. We undo that with multiplication. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. Again, if I draw a number line of this, then if I'm going up and down, if I add 7, I'm going up. And if I started at negative 24, and I'm going up, well, 0 is way up here, 24 away, and all I'm adding is 7. So I'm going to wind up at negative 17. So x equals negative 17. Okay, again, all we're doing is like an order of operations, undoing it to solve, come up with a solution. Okay, anybody got a question? If you got questions, feel free to come to a Zoom conference, ask, send me an email, and just communicate. So here we go. When we look at this and we're looking at a story problem, this has been hard for some people. Some of the ones that are struggling the least struggle the most when it comes to this. So you kind of have to ask yourself questions. Okay, there's 2 parts to this. I could see right away there's 7 more than twice a number. And then the third part, of course, is the is 23. Now, is always means equal, right? So that's where our equal sign is. So the biggest thing about this isn't so much you figuring out what the equation is but figuring out or how to solve it, but how to set it up, how to make it look right. So we have equals 23. That's what the is means. Now, twice a number. So when I'm trying to explain it, I always just think, hey, if I have $5 and someone tells you you have twice as much as me, how much money do you have? And most of you can figure that out. And what did you have to do? Well, you had to multiply it times 2, right? So that means twice a number is going to be 2x. But then we have that 7 more than. Well, if I have $5 and you have $7 more than me, how much do you have? Well, you're gonna have $12, right? And so you added 7. So here we added 7, and here we multiplied by 2, right? So what we're going to have is our equation is going to be that we have 2x plus 7 equals 23. Well, now we just have to solve it. So if I look, now I'm going to solve this by, first thing I'm going to undo is the addition. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. Which means I'm going to wind up with 2x on the left side. And on the left side, we're going to have 16, right? Okay, then to undo the multiplication, I'm going to divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I get x equals 8. And so that's your solution, x equals 8. Okay, so again, if we look at what we've been doing, we're doing the same steps, just sometimes we have more than one step. And so if you could just follow this and remember what we've been talking about. You're going to look at order of operations, and you're going to be thinking about that. One of the things you're going to probably have to remember is this situation. That when you have that, you have to consider the top in parentheses. And, you're going to struggle with that until it just is in your brain and you know it. You don't have to think about it. The other thing to be most concerned about is your integer operations, because you've just been doing that this year too. You haven't been thinking about integer operations before this year. And so those rules are going to be a little fresh in your mind, so be careful with that. It's going to be about you being careful and asking the same questions I've been asking. Just look for the problem. What's happening to the variable? How do you undo it? And do you have to unwrap it? If it's got more than one term in it, then you're going to have to unwrap it. Okay, anybody have a question? Just get a hold of me on email, and good luck with this.